Maybe you're okay with your neighbors having chickens. Maybe you're okay with your neighbors having cows. I'm at my house right now in Milton, and it's a very nice neighborhood. And I think you'd probably be a little surprised that we have chickens. Often people tell me they don't want to live in an HOA. And my question always to them is, when you say that, what do you mean? Do you mean you want to have chickens? Or do you mean you just want to have open space? Does it mean you don't want to be up on other houses? Does it mean you don't want a high HOA, as in you don't want hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month? Or does it mean you don't want to have any restrictions at all? Because in Delaware, when we say there's no HOA and there's no deed restrictions, very often it can mean you can have chickens. Very often it means you can have cows. Okay, no fights. Got a little bit of a hen fight here. See? So, is living in an HOA for you? So the really funny thing about where I am right now is we don't have an HOA at all. And across the street, they do have an HOA. So across the street, they do have to follow HOA rules. We don't. Because we disbanded the HOA, like, I don't know, 25 years ago, a long time ago. And across the street, they have a completely separate HOA. Where we are, all the houses were developed anywhere from the 60s to the very early 2000s, but most of them were around the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And that means the houses all look a little different. Everything doesn't look the same, whereas across the street, they're a little more, not quite cookie cutter, but not quite what we have over here. The very, very nice thing about where I am right now, I don't know how much of it you can really see, so I'm gonna make sure you can see a little bit more, is we are on the water. So you'd probably think, oh, they don't have an HOA, they're not in a very nice neighborhood. It's actually a very, very nice neighborhood. In the Milton area, it is known as a very kind of elite neighborhood, because it's just very different. And you know, when you have no HOA, but you have higher priced homes, you can kind of get away with not having an HOA. Because some people will say, I don't want an HOA, but then they also won't like what their neighbors are doing next door. Hey, no fighting. Oh, actually, it's the rooster doing something to a chicken. Oh, be nice to her. Rocky, leave her alone. Oh, God. Sorry. That's his favorite chicken. So, is an HOA for you? For some people, it is. I have a confession. When my husband and I first moved into a house we thought was our dream house, we thought we wanted to live in a neighborhood that had a really strict HOA, because we both came from neighborhoods that didn't have HOAs at all. And we thought that's what we wanted. And we got to the neighborhood, and it's a beautiful neighborhood. We both still really like it a lot. It's not this neighborhood, obviously. But we realized it's a little too strict for us. We didn't really like that there was restrictions on what kind of landscaping we could do. There was restrictions on what kind of plants we could plant. There was restrictions on how often our grass had to be cut. And we thought we wanted that, and it turns out it just wasn't for us, and that's okay. To find out that something's not for you, it doesn't have to be a permanent solution, whatever you choose. But we really thought we wanted that stricter neighborhood, because we both had come from neighborhoods, both very similar neighborhoods. This is actually my parents' house where I grew up, but I'm the owner now. And we both grew up in houses like this, and in neighborhoods like this, where there's not an HOA. Actually, both neighborhoods are on the water. We're both on mill ponds, and his neighborhood has chickens as well. And we're the crazy neighbors here who have chickens. So the good news is if you move to my parents' neighborhood, you know who the crazy neighbors are, because it's us, because we're the ones with chickens. But that's why I say, why do you say you don't want an HOA? And a lot of times people think it's because what they really don't want is they really don't want really high fees. But if they're saying they don't want an HOA because they want to have goats and chickens and whatever, then that's a very different reason for not wanting an HOA. For example, you can still have no HOA like we have here. And you can also still have deed restrictions that do not allow you to have, usually it says no chickens and no pigs specifically. A lot of times it doesn't necessarily say cows, so maybe you can have cows. But a lot of times people also make the mistake of thinking that just because there's no HOA, that they can go I can have chickens, and they can go full on that route. But a lot of times it's actually not the case. A lot of times you can't just have chickens. Kind of depends on your neighbors too. I mean, if your neighbors are, happy that you're giving them eggs all the time, then maybe you can get away with having having chickens. But if you have an HOA and it says no chickens, no poultry, no farm animals, sometimes they've gotten really clever and they've said no animals typically not kept as inside household pets because people have started to have a whole lot of everything as pets. So maybe an HOA is for you, maybe it's not, but most of the time the houses that you're looking at, they will have an HOA, and that's because of the way we have started doing developments in our area. It's much easier to develop large tract lands, much easier. Actually, it's required. They have to put in stormwater management ponds, and they have to put in a certain amount of green space. And so because of that, in order to maintain that green space, the storage management water ponds, you need an HOA to take care of all of that, because otherwise it gets very expensive for just one or two houses. And so that is why a lot of times you see all of these HOAs. And sometimes a homeowner association is for you, sometimes it's not. But most of the time, what you're looking at is going to have a homeowners association of some sort, a condo association of some kind. And that's just because of the majority of the way newer homes in our area are developed. So tell me, would you want to have chickens? Let me know in the comments if you ever thought you wanted to have chickens, or if you don't want to live in an HOA. What are your reasons for not wanting to live in an HOA? So I want you to see that this is a really nice neighborhood. So you're not just thinking, oh, she has chickens, it's got to be a trashy neighborhood. No, it's a very nice neighborhood. Okay, we do have trash cans, so I guess it's a little trashy. Tomorrow's trash day. But it's a very nice neighborhood. See, it's a really nice neighborhood. It's my parents' house. Really quick funny story. I sold the house next door to my parents' house, and when we had it listed, it was it's a waterfront neighborhood, so the home is waterfront, and it was really funny because it's a very unique neighborhood. Houses don't come up very often. People tend to live here a really long time, and one of the things, it's starting to rain again, and one of the questions we got all the time was, people, when they come and look at houses, they'll talk to neighbors. They'd say, we heard that the neighbors are very eccentric, the people next door. And I remember saying to several people, including the people who bought it, I said, oh, do you mean the people to the left or the people to the right? So my parents' house or the neighbors directly next to us? And I said, to the left or the right? but yes, both. So one thing with our neighborhood is that, yes, we're the ones who have chickens, so we're a little crazy. You can hear the rooster. He's being crazy. And so, yes, we've got roosters, and we got one rooster, and we got chickens, only a few chickens. But it is still a very nice neighborhood. And yeah, sometimes you might have a very nice neighborhood, and if there is not an HOA and there is indeed restrictions against it, you might have chickens. So, do you have a crazy neighbor, or are you the crazy neighbor? In our case, we're definitely the crazy neighbor. Tell us below in the comments.
I want to be on camera, baby. You don't want to be on camera.